Reddit, what's your favorite no freaking way story? This isn't that amazing, but when I was in 3rd grade my sister and I were taken by our father to Toys R Us to get our first Pokemon cards. It was just when Pokemon cards got really popular, so it was a big deal. We received 5 packs each after waiting in line behind dozens of other crazy parents. We had to wait outside the store before it opened. On our way home my sister opens her first pack of cards and there it is. Charizard. I nearly crapped myself trying to explain how amazing of a card she had just received. Her response out of the office, it's shiny. Also a first pack Charizard recipient. That crap got banned in my school before anyone actually learned how to play. Though, the card has since gone missing. I suspect my little brother to this day. I wouldn't call it my favorite, because this is just off the top of my head, but it is the only thing I can think of at the moment. Last week I was hanging around outside one of the buildings on campus between classes and I saw some guy come out of the doors who looked extremely similar to one of my TAs last year. I thought to myself, holy crap, that looks like so and so, but I knew it wasn't him. But the fact that it looked like the TA made me think back on that class I had last year for a few moments. Literally 30 seconds after the lookalike walks out of the door, the actual TA came out of the door. It was very strange. Almost like being reminded and subsequently thinking about the person had summoned them. It was a glitch in the matrix. My oldest and dearest friend and I met when we were infants. We literally shared a crib together. Our parents have told us hundreds of stories about the things we used to do when we were kids, and we talked to each other 3/month. I don't ever remember not knowing her. She's 23 now and I'm not too far behind her. She went to University of Michigan in Ann Arbor and I went to Michigan State University in East Lansing. About 3 years ago I randomly went to Ann Arbor with some friends and was trying to find her to catch up and see her new place. As I was walking and talking to her on the phone, she mentioned she lives on Ann St. I joke with her and say, "Ha, I live on Ann St. What a coincidence, we should do breakfast in the morning since we live down the street." Her. Funny. Jackass. Just get here, the address is 517. Me. Wait, your address is 517 and street? Her. Yes. Me. My address is 517 and street. I get to her place and realize that not only do we have the exact same address in different cities, but our crossroads are the same too. She lives on the corner of Ann and Division. I live on the corner of Ann and Division. TLDR. I've known my bestie for my entire life and we're both living at the same address in different cities at the same time. What kind of strange spot on numerology is that? Was at Donald Glover's stand-up show a couple weeks ago at RIT. During his routine, he switched to a Q&A bit where he started talking directly with the audience. As he's asking us what we want to talk about later in the show, some girl screams out "Battle Me!" Turns out she was a poet who had won a freestyling competition for free tickets to Donald Glover, and she wanted to freestyle battle him. So what does he do? He calls her up on stage. Then he says that we need someone to give a beat. So he calls out for a beatboxer and brings someone else up from the crowd. Finally, since he is participating in the battle, he cannot run it. So out from backstage comes his Derek comedy partner DC Pearson, who was the opening act, to MC the event and set the rules for the freestyle battle. They then proceeded to do a 3-round wrap-off. TLDR. Donald Glover gets challenged to freestyle battle during his stand-up by a college student, accepts, and it is MC'd by DC Pearson. I worked at a small restaurant on the north shore of Lake Superior the summer of my junior year in college. The woman who owned it was an ultra-conservative fundamentalist Christian. They sold plots of land to people for Y2K. After a full summer full of craziness, I had enough and wanted to go on a trip. My brother and I and a friend decided to go see the Grand Canyon. So I told the owner that I had to work on a paper for Bible school and would like to leave a couple weeks early. She was reluctant, but in the end sent me off with her blessing because I was doing the Lord's work. So we head out on a road trip to the Grand Canyon. never bothering to look on a map as to where it actually was. We ended up somewhere out west at a place called the Grand Canyon that looked totally unimpressive, so we headed up to Glacier National Park as an alternative. We pulled into a gas station near Glacier, and who the frick do I see but the owner that I'd lied to and her entire family that I'd gotten to know throughout the summer. I ducked down in the car while my brother walked by them and looked at me with this what the frick expression on his face. We tore out of there and I never saw them again. What are the odds? Another crazy guy on shrooms story. The dorm complex I lived in while going to college was a series of towers, all joined to a one-story building with a terrace across the top. None of us had cars or much money, so we usually spent most nights playing frisbee on the terrace, and most nights we'd get a few randoms who'd ask to join in. So this one night we're tossing the disc back and forth, and a few random guys walk across the terrace and join us. We throw back and forth for a half hour or so, and the guys seem nice enough, completely normal. Then one of the guys next to me starts acting a bit erratic, and after a while he turns to me and says the shrooms are kicking in. So at pretty much the same time, my buddy puts too much into his throw and sends the disc flying above our heads and off the terrace. It hits some trees right next to the building and falls to the ground 30-40ish feet below. Shrooms guy sees the disc fly off, screams I've got it, runs to the railing, and as his friends and my friends are screaming at him to stop, he jumps off the railing, spread eagle, into a patch of trees next to the building. We all run to the edge expecting to see his head smashed open on the sidewalk below, but he's hanging from a branch just below terrace level. He looks up at us with a big crap-eating grin on his face and yells, "Now watch me swing from branch to branch like Curious Freaking George." He then proceeds to do just that, with all the nimbleness of a circus chimp, and after making his way to the lower branches jumps the remaining 10 feet to the ground. He throws the disc back, runs off, and we never see him again. TLDR. Guy on shrooms jumps off building terrace into trees and swings from branch to branch like Tarzan to recover a frisbee from the ground that probably could have been recovered by just taking the stairs. I went out cruising with a friend of mine and his friends. It was late, probably around 1 AM or so, and we were cruising down Main Street. Up ahead the traffic came to almost a crawl. This is weird since it's late at night. We could see up ahead that there were 3 Ford Focuses all lined up and purposefully slowing traffic. My friend's older brother, who was driving, hops in the median and guns it up to the Focuses. We see that it's just a bunch of kids getting their rocks off doing sholish things. The driver says oh frick no. He turns to my friend and says you know what to do. He speeds ahead of the 3 Focuses and pulls up on the side of the street. My friend grabs a cordless drill from the back of the Suburban, the vehicle we were in, jumps out of the vehicle and takes off the license plate. The Focuses were past us at this point, still going slow to pee off the people behind them. My friend gets back in the Suburban and we take off. The driver speeds up to the Focuses, gets in the median next to the far left Focus, flips them off, then crashes his Suburban into the Focus, which in turn crashes into the other Focuses. At this point I am like, what the frick just happened? We watch for a minute as we watch these kids trying to get over their airbags and start assessing the damage. Everyone in the vehicle is busting up laughing and we take off flying down Main Street. When we got back to my friend's house he puts the license plate back on and pops the dent out of the Suburban. TLDR. A friend's brother purposefully crashed into 3 cars because the people were driving like jackasses. We got away with it. Similar story but involves my Jeep and 43 mailboxes. I was driving home to our small town from a nearby city and 200 miles. We were in a pickup truck and I was alone on the back. We can do that in Africa. We were doing about 80 to 100 miles per hour all the way. Quiet roads, no cops. We get home okay. I grab my stuff and get out, and as my friend starts to reverse back out, the front tire breaks off. If that had happened anywhere on the road the truck would have gone butt over tea kettle and I would have been spread across a 100 yards of tarmac. I once visited Reddit and found a post titled "Found this gem in my local burrito joint" on the front page. Surely this must be the Pulp Fiction poster at BTB, I thought. It was. When my ma was about 19 or 20, her and her twin sister were shopping in Lake City when they were approached by a man in a nice car. He asked if they wanted to get in and maybe have a drink. Ma said he was rather handsome but they turned him down. Later that year, it was revealed on the news that the man that had approached them was Ted Bundy, and after they turned him down, he abducted and killed his last known Florida victim. TLDR. Ma almost got killed by Ted Bundy. I was 7 years old playing Pokemon for the first time. My brother was 14 and told me about this game a little more. Then he speaks to me about Suicune. No freaking idea how to spell that, sue me. And he said that he is constantly moving at every step you take and that only the luckiest would find him. Since it was about a 10 million chance 1-1. Luckiest. Frick you, I said. I'm finding him. As soon as this conversation was over, I enter in a battle with little more hope than the average battle. I now had a reason to fight. With a prayer I looked at the materializing Pokemon and it wasn't the shape of any grass Pokemon I knew. My eyes grew wide and my jaw dropped. My brother looked at me and said, "What's going on?" To which I only replied, no freaking way. I did it. I found Suicune. It was of course on my screen and I had the Master Ball up and ready to catch the bee. TLDR. I was talking about a very rare thing and it happened almost instantly. Suicune. No freaking idea how to spell that, sue me. I googled it and it's Suicune. Also you're a lucky bastard. My friend was driving through Florida when he saw a hitchhiker with her thumb out. He pulled over to pick her up, but as she was walking to his car, he saw what he described as pure evil in her eyes and pulled away before she could get in. He was watching the news a few months later and the hitchhiker he nearly picked up was none other than Aileen Wuornos. He was walking down the hallway to go to bed, 12 years old, when I saw something with pitch black skin peek out from my parents' bedroom at me. Only other person in the house, my mother, was in the kitchen. It had black, somewhat moist skin. There was a sheen to it, dark crimson eyes, with large and long fingers. It grabbed the frame of the door, peeked out, locked eyes with me for a few seconds, then sank back into the room. 1. I wasn't overly sleepy at the time. 2. I have never before or since then ever seen something that wasn't there. 3. I was not religious, nor did I have an overactive imagination. 4. I was not taking any drugs, prescription or otherwise. 5. Neither myself nor my family has a history of mental illness. I've lived 25 years without a similar experience, so I tend to statistically exclude what happened as within the realm of possibility. But if I were to look at the situation and base my opinion merely on the experience I had that night, then I would say with 100% certainty that I truly saw something that was not human. No one has ever believed this story. As the years go by, I believe it less and less. But my memory of that event is still crystal clear. I knew right after it happened that I would never forget. I was outside eating at a burger joint, and Bill fricking Murray comes up and takes a French fry. He told me no one will ever believe you. No way. This one time I was playing SC2 in a park on my laptop, and Bill Murray came up, took over, lost the match convincingly, returned my laptop, and said the exact same thing. It's like it's a hobby of his, or some crap. My mate's mum is a doctor, who assisted on the following, which I thought was an urban myth. A 18-year-old guy was playing rugby league and after a massive tackle, his hip cleanly dislocated. They called the paramedics to come, who arrived ridiculously fast considering the injury and proceeded to pop the hip back into place. The guy was screaming already from the pain of the dislocation, but when they popped it back in, he lost his crap. Totally, screaming and wailing like nothing else that they had heard. As it turns out, in the process of the dislocation, a lot of the muscles around that general groin area had pulled, including the testicles. One of them had gotten caught in the hip joint when it was popped back in. After when they got him to the hospital they diagnosed the issue and had to re-dislocate it to get it back out. Also, if anyone feels bad for the guy, he had run out on his then pregnant GF about 3 weeks before. The bastard deserved it. My testicles hurt. We were skating a spot in Parkersburg. WV and Jake the Snake Roberts pulled up in a IROC Z and asked for directions. His snake was in the back seat. This was around 1998 I think. This was maybe 5 years back, give or take. I was visiting my old taekwondo studio and taking the morning classes, which were adults only but all ranks welcome. I got to visit and work out with a bunch of old friends, but there was a relatively new girl there. Let's call her Rita. Rita was very energetic, squeaky voiced and kind of a flirt. I had hung out with her a few times, but I knew nothing was gonna happen between us. I heard too many stories about her on-off boyfriend, and she just reeked of drama and crazy. And turns out it was a good decision because she made an insane request to me one day. Rita and her boyfriend were apparently together again, and having a bit of a pregnancy scare. They were surprised, but considering their options. So she asked me, if we find out that I am pregnant, do you think you could round kick me in the stomach? She even said it with a straight face. Number freaking way. From then on, she was one big pile of nope in my eyes. Haven't seen her since that day. Ugh. Shudder shudder. Buddy told me he could bench 315. I said no freaking way. We went to the gym to try, and wouldn't you know it, he couldn't. I was right. A buddy of mine was in Yellow Springs, Ohio, tagging a wall. That's street slang for painting with spray cans, probably illegally, and he hears skateboard wheels so he lowers his can. He looks up and Dave Chappelle falls by sipping a frappuccino. Mr. Chappelle says nice tag, B, and keeps on rolling, never stopping. My friend then put down his can and left, shaking his head and laughing. Not sure if I believe that. Sounds freaking awesome though. My best friend and her now husband are extremely accident prone at important parts in their relationship. First time they met, she had joined a mountain biking club in college and majorly crashed. She still has big scars on her elbows. Boy comes up, he helps her and they become best friends. When they were engaged, he wanted to take her hiking to a special spot and propose. On the way to the spot, his eye, cornea or something, is scratched by a pine needle and they need to hike back down, drive out of the park and go to a hospital. After medical attention, they are able to return and he proposes with a messed up eye. The night before their wedding, he is driving her dad's rental car, still didn't understand this one, and is T-boned. Him and dad's best friend are okay and wedding goes on with very little sleep, but car is totaled. They're having their first child next month and I'm hoping this one goes more smoothly. As reading the title, I was watching 50/50 and the actor Seth Rogen is at an art gallery and he says no fricking way as I read it. I was like no fricking way. Buddy of mine and a couple friends are driving through the countryside, higher than lords, when a Camaro rolls up behind them. It tailgates them for a while, before backing off. Then it comes back and screams past them. My buddy and other riders flip the guy off. 2 miles down the road is a fork in the road. Because it's in the country, and country roads are just fricked up usually, the intersection is a huge triangle. Well, they realize the Camaro is stopped at the intersection, in the left lane, waiting for them. The guys, more petrified than wood, pull up next to him. The driver has a deadlock stare on my buddy. The Camaro throws it into reverse, goes about 20 yards back, brakes, wheel screech, puts it into forward and, turning his head so he doesn't break eye contact with my buddy, rips past their car and into the center of the intersection where he begins to pull donut after donut while staring daggers at my friend. He did 5 donuts, stopped, still staring at my friend, and booked it to the left. My friends went right. Poop was spilled that day. TLDR. Country driver stunting. Also, my ex-GF left her social security card out. I saw it. Mine got blown. Because our number is exactly the same till the last digit. My last digit is 4. Hers is 3. We've got a group of like a 100 college kids staying at Myrtle Beach over the summer. We set up basketball hoops around the pool and people are taking turns shooting all the way across the really long pool. The basket and ball both suck, so this is a crazy shot that no one has made yet. One of the leaders steps up for his first shot, underhand lobs it and swoosh he just walks away. When I was in high school, I got pulled over for the first time driving to a college interview in full suit and tie. I was very respectful and apologized and just said I was nervous about being on time. The cop was a total dong and just said speed kills as he ripped me a $300 plus ticket. It's also important to note this was just inside the city limits of Citaville. Anyhow, I worked at a department store at the time and the previous day worked an 8-hour shift with a guy I found out had just retired as police chief of Citaville. Crazy coincidence, I thought. So I planned out how I was going to look up his work schedule and bump into him so I could mention the ticket. As I was leaving the store from actually looking up his schedule, I actually did run into him. Second coincidence. And told him about it. He asked if I remembered the officer's name, and I did because it was very close to being Mike Myers. As it turns out, Mike Myers was his best friend and had eaten dinner at his house the day I was pulled over, less than an hour after he actually ripped me the ticket, maybe even on the way there. He told me his friend could be a dong sometimes and told me to bring the ticket in so he could make it go away. He also said that he wanted to do this because I shouldn't have to pay the increased car insurance premiums the rest of my life. TLDR. Got a speeding ticket the first time I was ever pulled over. Just happened to meet and work with the newly retired police chief of the city the day before. Went to look up his schedule and actually ran into him at work. Turns out the police officer was his best friend and had dinner with him the night I was pulled over. He got rid of the ticket for me without me asking. In college last year, a party I was at had been busted by the police. Since I was under 21, I had to worry about trying not to get an MIP. When I came upstairs to leave, I saw that the front door was already being covered by a policeman. So I ran to the back door to check that out. The back door was located in a dark hallway with a door being at the end of it. When I reached the door, I saw one person standing by the door leaning against it. Drunkenly, I ask him what's the cop situation here and I walk out the door without hearing his answer. Once I got a little away from the house I tried to get a hold of my friend who had been inside. Eventually, I find him and he explains to me that the man I talked to was a policeman and everyone else who tried to exit the door got MIPs. No freaking way. The good Lord was looking over me that night. Odin does protect those who drink like champs. I don't remember a lot of details but this story is completely true. I was 5-7 years old, I can't remember specifically, and I was watching TV by myself in my family room. I was watching a magician on TV. I can't remember his name or even the channel. I do remember when he asked the viewers to pick up a penny. There was a penny in front of me in a wooden basket so I picked it up. He asked us to rub the penny and I think say something. He then said put it under your pillow at night before you go to sleep. I put the penny under my pillow and the next morning it was a large gold coin. I don't know where that coin went or whatever but I recall being amazed. I truly wish my memory was a lot better so I could remember more, but I look back at it every once in a while and say WTF to myself. My grandfather was working on the docks as a good dock worker should do. He happened to be unloading a ship at the time of the accident. The accident in question, a large crane swinging around and knocking him off the large ship and onto the pavement below. His colleagues surrounded the body and one of them remarked, "Oh my god, Bob is dead." To which my grandfather snapped back, "I'm not dead. I'm not even knocked out." He proceeded to get up and continue on with his day. I was playing tug of war and fetch with my dog, Teddy, when I grabbed the toy from him and threw it on the bed. It was a strong throw, and looked like it was going all the way to the head of the bed, but it hit a crease in the sheets and stopped near the foot of the bed. Teddy gets an epic running start and leaps onto the bed only to notice the toy hadn't made it very far so he digs his front paws into the mattress and tries to turn around and grab it but physics are against him. His front paws stay put but his hind end is in the air with all the momentum of his historic leap and he flips back over front, hits the wall, at the head of the bed, no headboard, and falls off the side of the bed into the trash can. I stood there laughing my butt off thinking no freaking way and my roommate rushes in to see what the heck all the noise was to find me laughing at my dumbass dog sitting in the trash can. In Tokyo out at a bar I'm talking to one of the only white women there, when this huge linebacker looking guy comes over and tries to start a fight with me saying she's his GF. I try to say my bad and apologize, but he starts throwing punches. I'm a regular there so I just back up hands in the air and call out the bartender's name. He knows it wasn't me who started anything and has my back. He and security get the guy in a hold and call the cops. Cops come, take statements, ask the guy if he lives in Japan or is visiting. He's on a business trip and the company name caught my attention. My brother back in the US works for the same 20,000 person firm. So I'm kind of primed to hear the juicy gossip details and catch his name. He gets arrested and the cops take him away. I Skype my brother after I get home and, without saying what happened, ask, hey, have you ever heard of a guy named? He gets a quizzical look on his face and says, yeah, was my boss until he transferred to international sales last month. Out of 20,000 people. Not only does my brother know him, he used to work for him. I say, I bet you there's bruise on my cheek that he'll be transferred out of international in the next few days, and tell him the story of how his ex-boss assaulted me. A few days later he mails me and says, you lose. He wasn't transferred. Guy was fired while still in Japan. When I was 16, I was riding my bicycle home late one night and eating a big butt burger, which I held in one hand while riding. Suddenly 3 guys jumped out of the shadows and tried to steal my ride. They threw me to the ground and proceeded to punch and kick me before holding a knife to my throat and telling me they were taking my bike. They broke my finger and I had a few bumps and bruises, but the burger was all good and was a great comfort as I gave a police report. My cousin, my best friend, and I went up to Orlando to visit a good girlfriend of ours that moved there recently to live with some dude that she met on the internet. The fact that this is a dude that shacks up with girls he meets on the internet should tell you as much as the friends he keeps, as much as it should tell you what kind of people me and my friends are, since it was one of my friends that decided to live with him. We're not necessarily quality people. I guess it's my point. So, we go up to visit her, and we make our first stop at her new hubby's mom's house for lunch. When we get there, a girl friend of his is there and we kind of strike up some conversation during dinner. We're all bullshitting around, making jokes, having a dandy old time. After we leave the house, I receive a mystery text from an unknown number. Hey cutie. I retort with who the fricks is, to which she responds, it's me, so and so. God, I just met you and you just forgot about me. The levels of crazy went off the rafters with this one. Me, however, being an incredibly uncreative butthole, let my cousin and my friend know that we've made contact and that it's time to put our collective wits together to make the most of this. So we start flirting through text and all of us start putting our heads together to respond with the wittiest responses we can come up with. Witty responses turn into sexy responses, and around the 4th hour crap starts getting downright pornographic with this girl. By the 5th hour, she's like, look, let's cut the balls and why don't you come over and pound on this hot freaking body already. We all just freeze. At this point I'd like to mention that at the time, and still to this day, I was dating my woman, who I love like crazy and would never cheat on with some random Caucasian whore bucket of this caliber. At this point, I turned the phone over to my cousin Keith. Now, the thing you must know about Keith is that Keith, and listen up kiddies because this part is most essential to the story, is that Keith was born with a crippling disease. He was born with a debilitating lack of fricks. Anytime Keith wakes up, he simply does not have a single frick to give. Nada, zip, zilch, zero, dong, just his. I turn to Keith, and I just hand him the phone, and ask him if he's ready to take on this most dastardly challenge. Sure as crap, Keith grabs the phone, Google Maps directions to this girl's house, rides over, knocks on the door. The girl, obviously confused but undeterred, lets him inside. To not make the story any longer, fast forward to 4 in the morning, and Keith shows up with the scent of sweet justice on his index and middle fingers. Woof. The fact that this is a dude that shacks up with girls he meets on the internet should tell you as much as the friends he keeps, as much as it should tell you what kind of people me and my friends are, since it was one of my friends that decided to live with him. I had to read that like 5 times. This isn't true, but my friends still believe it. One day I was hanging out with my buddy, Steven, when we got a call from a mutual friend, Avery. Avery and his brother were driving home from NM to CO and they asked us if we wanted to meet them at a 24/7 Dunkin' Donuts in CO Springs. So we said yes and told them to call us when they got into company. So when we got the call we headed to the place. It was like a 2-hour drive. By the time we got there it was like 3 AM. My friend and I were talking about our favorite Bill Murray no one will ever believe you stories. And we decided to make one up to tell our friends when they got there. We told them we were sitting in the car waiting when the shittiest car we had ever seen pulled up and a guy with a giant puffy coat emerged. When he came out of the store he had 2 boxes of donuts and went back to his car and just shoveled the donuts down like he'd never eaten before. He caught us staring at him and he rolled down his window. It was Bill fricking Murray. He laughed and said no one will ever believe you before he sped off into the night. Our friends were so jealous. In the late 80s I was doing Dead Tour. In spring of '88 at the Pittsburgh shows my friends and I were parked next to some other dudes for the duration. At the next shows that my friends and I went to Buffalo in July, we couldn't find any parking that we were happy with and eventually ended up parked in some backyard. Who did we end up parking next to? The same dudes. 4 months later, different cars, small private off-site parking. Might only be understood by college bros ultimate players. I was playing some pickup ultimate and there were some hot crap kids who thought that throwing an air bounce was really sweet and playing can jam. Apologies to those who don't know what I'm talking about. So I walk up as my jealous self and say, oh yeah, I bet I can air bounce it straight through the slot. A very difficult shot by itself, let alone as an air bounce. I nailed it, walked to my car, and left. Still have no clue how I did that. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.